All right, and welcome back to another exciting episode of PlanetGenX reacts to Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Episode 8, and that is Under Cloak of War.
It's what we've been begging for, right? We've been harping on this for a few episodes now, right?
Yeah, because they teased us with it early on in the first episode, like, what is up with Mbenga and Chapel?
Right.
And how why
AKA Ram.
Yeah, AKA Ram. Why are they so fierce fighters? Or they seem to be on that stuff they inject themselves with.
Protocol 12.
Yeah,
Is that what it was
12,
called?
something like that. Yeah. So they start out and they meet up on the Kelsey May, which was a very strange looking ship.
Yeah.
Of all the ships to see, you often don't see little things like that, little weirdo ships. That is the beauty of CG, though. It's a lot easier to probably throw together a ship in the computer than, spend the money to have the model makers bang one up.
Right.
So I do appreciate the fact that we get more variety. It's cool.
Yeah.
Because I was all about back in the day. I loved the different ships, learning all about them, and it was fun times. And
this was 8, right?
That was 8, yes. And so they bringing a Klingon ambassador on board, and it turns out he's a very nice, seemingly nice Klingon. Very strange because he seems to have like none of that. It's just like Spock right now. It's like smiling Spock and shit. It's like a Klingon that doesn't have that war nerve or something like that.
So our distinguished Klingon guest is actually Robert Wisdom, known quantity there, right?
Yeah, I know the face, and I just couldn't think of who. I mean, I don't know the name, but I know the face. Give me some notables.
Let me get that for you.
All right, I'll talk while you do that.
Please do.
Yeah, I thought he was very oddball Klingon, just almost like Spock's brother, the one that he seemed like not Klingon at all. Or Spock's.
All right, here's the
go ahead.
The first thing, Dark Knight Rises. You'll definitely recognize him from that.
Okay.
Did you watch Barry?
No.
He was in Barry. He was in Face Off. Like a lot of the stuff you'll recognize him from. He's generally playing like a cop, an investigator, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I've seen him do it a few times. Let's see. Not seeing a lot more. The Alienist had some popularity. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No.
Oh, that was TV series.
Well,
he was in the TV series Watchmen.
Oh, okay.
What I was talking about. Blue Bloods, another cop thing. Just stuff like that is generally what you expect to see.
Yeah, it sounds like he's getting pigeonholed in a lot of cop stuff. Of course, as an actor, you take what you can get, and if that's what you get, that's what you get.
Right. And I mean, if you could, establish yourself as some kind of a officer type entity early on, you can probably get a lot of gigs that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. So he's doing a tour of the ship, and of course, all the security people are just like buttholes tighten as soon as they hear that. Oh my God, a Klingon going around our ship. And of course, Ortega's putting her foot in her mouth when they get onto the bridge. That was great.
Yeah, the first thing for me was the whole boatswain thing, right?
Yes, the bosun's whistle. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they took time out to create a device that fulfills a function that was made by a very simple device in the past, right?
Yeah. And they blow in it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They block it out. They stage everything right. And there's just this dude just like doing this, right? And then they make a big deal out of it and like the history of it. But at the same time, it's like, I guess they're trying to get to the idea of like all the accoutrement of old world exploration, stuff like that, and I think that kind of falls in line with it. but it doesn't hit the mark for me.
Well, I in a way appreciate it because I think they're looking at it like nobody knows what the hell it is, and I mean that by like the young audience. They're like, "What the fuck
Mhm.
was all that about?" So they took the time to explain, what it
Well, I
is.
mean, also in the world, the cinematic world or whatever you want to call it, we're viewing, you know, most cultures don't know what it is either.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like taking it from his point of view, and the audience was getting to learn, what was going on there. Because can't think of any time in Star Trek when they actually have explained it. So if you don't know naval traditions, then you just don't know what's going on there. And now you've got a device. Because I'm trying to think in Next Generation, it seems like they actually use a bosun's whistle.
I think I've seen it. I think I remember seeing it,
Yeah.
right?
So if it wasn't on the TV shows and the movies, I know they've used it, and I want to say
Yeah.
it was the actual whistle. So this whole deal, which would be kind of weird since they have a little deal now, and this is previous to that. But whatever they could say, well, they wanted to be traditionalists, so Picard maybe it was up to the captain or something, and he wants a traditional
Well,
whistle.
I was gonna say if it's in a movie, they did do one where they were on the Constitution, right?
Right? Yeah. So
So maybe it was on there.
it could have been, very well could have been. Um, yeah. Ortegas puts her foot in her mouth, and
Right off.
yeah, right off the bat as they walk on. Doesn't seem to really phase him though, but it just kind of sets the tone for how all the war veterans feel about having him on the ship, especially ones from that particular
Well,
battle.
I think given the context of the entire episode, it's a really good setup. Just that this is something that this guy deals with everywhere he goes, and he's so used to it. And this is how he deals with it, right? They show that.
Yeah,
Um, so it's a great setup for me for the episode.
and it's funny when they get to this part where Spock like has prepared all this stuff,
Right.
and he was talking about I've prepared this caffeinated Klingon beverage thing. I'm like, Ractagino, that's our
Right.
Ractagino. They just nonstop. They love reminding us that this is Star Trek, that this came from here, this came from here, there's constant reminders of that. It's very good, but it does seem like there are a lot of them.
Right. It's almost like so much fan service, everything feels a little plastic, right?
Yeah. I did notice too that they're also doing it with the architecture and the technology and stuff. I saw very, like on the pad that number one came in and handed to Pike. I noticed it had a little remnants of the back of the pads that they used in Enterprise, and that would make
Mhm.
sense as an evolutionary standpoint. I also noticed that the windows and stuff were very next generation, so they're trying to bridge that gap too, where there was a large, a very big difference in the
Yeah.
architecture between so many shows. So it's nice that these ships kind of are starting to feel like the ships we're used to in the 24th century.
Yeah, it's like they've pretty much gone back through the history and just cherry picked all the architectural stuff that they like, and now have brought it to an even more modern, oddly
Yeah.
look.
And in fact, the first thing I noticed when I first saw, and this was during Discovery, first saw our CG Enterprise, I said, boy, that Enterprise, you can actually make the leap. When you look at that one and look at the movie refit, you can actually make
Mhm.
that leap that it's a refit.
Yeah,
With the 60s model and the movie, you're like, my mind can't make that leap, man. You can't
yeah,
convince me that's the same ship. And I always have to remind myself it is the same ship, you know, that they just refit it. But yeah, it's a lot easier to make that move. Uh,
agreed.
I applaud them for that.
Yeah, and I don't know, was Pike actually cooking? It was all about cooking, right? But he was sitting there talking in this episode, right?
Well, he gets first of all, if it wasn't cooking, he comes in to get the ingredients from a doctor.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn it, there it is. That they just have to reference it somehow, some way. They're gonna get it in.
Well, dude, that's the point I'm trying to make, though, is like I don't think we see him cook, right?
Well, there is that part at the end when they're at dinner. He's behind the counter there. He's doing
Oh yeah,
something, so I guess he is cooking.
maybe. But I was thinking like during like the whole thing where they're meeting the ambassador and everything,
Yeah,
He's not actually cooking. He's already made the meal. We don't see him cook it, right?
Yeah.
So none of that happened during that scene, which was odd.
Yeah, I think they actually have a running gag there at the production company. I think they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Um, so we start to see, well, they come in to meet Mbinga and all that, and of course he just goes fucking full
Well,
PTSD.
so there's the dinner, and that's the whole thing. Was Pike was like, "Hey, I'm asking a lot, blah blah blah." He
Yeah,
wants the veterans to come to the dinner as a show, that peace can be made and all this.
yeah, and I just do not understand the point of that. I really don't, because
Right.
it served nothing but to forward this story. That's all it served.
Well, I mean
It
that,
was a stupid
and
move as a captain.
yeah, it stirs up all this old trauma, right? That's
Yeah,
obviously there. And I
yeah,
mean, as a captain, he should know to some extent, right, that this is gonna dredge up some old shit that Mbega doesn't want to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about, right?
absolutely. I mean, it's so bad a move. I have wrote it down twice on here. Like,
Right.
let's see where I'm at with it. Because you've jumped ahead of me a little bit, but that's all right.
Sorry.
Uh, yeah, I put on here, why invite them to dinner? I mean, that, and then write the line afterwards because I literally wrote nothing else, and then it was after the dinner and everybody blew up, and I said Pike shouldn't have had them attend the dinner. It just
Right.
should not have happened. Uh, if you didn't see that that was where it was going, then you don't deserve to sit in that captain's chair.
Right.
I mean, and again, it did nothing but forward the story, and that's just self-serving, and I can't abide that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um, you didn't really skip over anything major. I just a couple of notes. Let's see. Starfleet crew as soldiers. This is something I like to see that you've only seen a little bit. Deep Space Nine. You get to see it where when Nog is towards the latter seasons, Nog's in full on Starfleet, and they go to a couple of battle zones, and there's a couple of things, and he gets injured in one of them. But you get to see. There's one episode where Jake goes with Bashir, and they go into the front lines, and he's in a hospital, and they get separated and stuff for a while. And you actually, for the first time, get to see, like, when you think of Starfleet, you always see them in their regular uniforms and they're piloting ships and whatever, and it's about exploration. It's not about war. And for the first time, you get to see like a soldier, a proper soldier, that he didn't join Starfleet to explore. I mean, like he's there to fight. So this is something you never see before. So flash forward to now, and you can see the same thing. Like we're getting to see the TOS era soldiers and what they look like in their get up. And first thing I noticed too is that these guys all had red. The ones that were coming, the guy that got his the throat slit
Throat
at
slit?
the end, yeah. I was like, well, we know what's going to happen to him.
He's a red
Red. My wife asked about that a couple episodes. It's like, oh, he has a red shirt. Does that mean he's going to die? I said, I don't know about him, but we're definitely still waiting to see if that's a thing. I'm sure.
Well, that's definitely one of those tropes that they like to both play with and like play with your expectation of as well too, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I loved the Clint Howard cameo.
Man, the other Howard brother, right?
Yeah,
Finally, I hadn't
and
seen him in years.
he's done a lot of different Star Trek. For those that don't know, during the productions of Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise, he was married and still is to Mary D. Howard, who was on the production staff for most of all of those. I don't think she may not have started exactly day one with Next Generation, but it wasn't long after.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so that's why he showed up a lot back in those days. So it was nice to see him again. And I don't know if she's involved with this production company or not. If so, and she is, that's awesome, because I love hearing that any of the old schoolers get to work on this stuff.
Yeah.
I love it.
And Clint's just always been one of those great side actors. He doesn't ever really get the spotlight, but
No.
he's always like he did that character well,
He
right?
knows what his
There's
part
never a
is.
question.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
knows what his lot is in life and where he stands. So I think he
and hopefully he's happy with it, right?
yeah, he
Because
seems like he is. I think he
yeah,
exploits it. I think he capitalizes on it. He knows what's up.
yeah.
You know, he was the little kid in Andy Griffith's show eating the peanut butter sandwich with a little cowboy hat. I forget the name that he had, but he was a little tiny kid and he always had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a little cowboy hat. That was little
I
Clint.
was always distracted when that shit came on. There was always something better to do.
Oh man, I love Andy Griffith's show. Um, but one thing they did, in Benga, because we're in a flashback now, I'm talking about, and it you got to they're transporting in wounded, and they've got this one guy, and his guts are just everywhere, and it doesn't look like he's going to make it. So they come up with the idea to put him in the transporter buffer.
Well, the
And
reason they do that is because they don't have organ
yeah, they don't have the
replicators or
yeah,
whatever they are.
they're like organ replicator or tissue replicator is what it is.
Right. So
And
they just can't patch them up like they
yeah,
usually do.
they don't have a chance till they want to hold him over, and he's got more in there that till a starship gets there that actually does. And I just wrote on my notes that I concur with this. This is stuff we've seen before. I may or may not concur with it being used right now. This is something that's kind of a trick that
Yeah.
we've learned later. So
I
I'll
think the
let it
first time we saw it was in TNG, right?
yeah,
Or
and
did
I'll
they
let
use it
it
in Zero?
pass. I guess. Um, because we've seen it before, and it is sound tech that we know can happen. And yeah, I'm sure Scotty would have done it in his day, like in this time period. I mean,
Right.
um, yeah. Then I had Pike looking for ingredients, and I said, "Why invite them to dinner?" Yeah. Notice the red armor. I would have dumped the buffer too. By the way, at the end they had to end up. They needed the transporter buffer. That would have been a no-brainer for me. She was like, "What have you
Yeah.
done?" And I was right there with him, Bingo. You got to dump them, man. You got way more people that could needs the attention and survive that you got trapped away in your little transporter buffer there.
Yep.
It just is what it is, man. And that's
And
one of
I
the things
mean,
that Troy learned when she was going through the command course.
yeah. But he also played that role of an excellent mentor.
Oh
It's like,
yes,
you don't have to make this decision. I will make it for you.
right. Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's not unlike since I'm flying so much, I'll use the airplane analogy that new first officers when they're flying for the first time, or no, let's just say a new pilot, not new first officer, a new pilot flying for the first time is going to be under supervision, and the
Mhm.
first time he has to land, that captain might be ready to take over at a moment's notice, and they
Yeah.
can either say you have control, or the captain will just say I have control and just take it right there because you don't
Right.
have time to dicker about it. But that's one of those things. Yeah, it's good to have somebody when you're in a new situation like that doesn't expect you to make those kind of decisions. That's something that you'll learn from experience
Yeah.
and time. He's a great actor for a mentor.
Oh, yeah.
His voice is. I almost feel like I want to give him a lozenge. Like between him and Robert F. Kennedy, man, I just want to give both them guys a lozenge. Sounds like they're fucking talking with sandpaper as a throat.
Some water, motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah, Protocol 12, that's what it was called, that stuff.
Yeah.
It was like just like painkillers and adrenaline
Yeah.
in a thing. I thought that that Andorian kind of looked like my older brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not exactly, but just there was some similarities. I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. Um, and then we come to find out here towards the end, after the Rar and Benga have their little verbal face off, and then kind of a physical face off there at the end, that we learn that he's the butcher of Jagal.
Right.
Wow, what a twist!
Yeah.
I mean that's something, because I didn't know that that's where all it was coming from. I just thought he was just, I mean, because what he's experiencing could have just been from being in war.
Yeah,
being in
just trauma,
battle.
post-traumatic stress.
Yeah. So that was a
But yeah,
surprise. Big
the
surprise.
big reveal at
Yeah.
the end.
Yep. And this is
He's
episode
like,
8. surely they're not going to go. This wasn't the end, obviously. So I think we are getting 10. I think we can safely say that now.
Yeah, we're probably getting 10. We're probably going to see like whoever that was at Starfleet that was talking about, what Pike is doing and where he is and all this
Yeah.
other stuff.
We also
Probably
have
see that come
another
into
little
play.
tease. I don't know if you caught it there at the end because he was talking about the biobed and how it's been acting up.
Right.
How long has
Yeah.
it been
Yeah.
acting up since?
Since wow,
The Gorn
they
incident.
said it, but I can't. The
Yeah.
Gorn, yes.
Yeah, right. The Gorn incident. So right
Yeah.
before we fade out to the credits, he thinks he's fixed it. System malfunction. You
Yep.
know what I think? Gorn virus.
Yeah.
I think
I
we're
could
gonna.
see that.
Yeah, I think the ship's about to get infected with something that's gonna mess it up, and we're gonna see something to do with the Gorn here. The last 2 episodes.
Well, simple threading logic here is basically Pike will get activated to do something with the Gorn initiative, right?
Yeah.
And during that time, magically somebody is going to be tied into that group, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, there's something going on the ship, and they'll be able to do something like shut it down, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely was a good tease,
Yeah.
and I hope that these last 2 episodes stay above board, man, because it's been a bit of a roller coaster this season, man. It's not been terrible, but it's not been all great. So here we are at number 8, and I think overall I enjoyed the episode. I didn't get bored
Yeah.
with it at all. In fact, I don't have anything really negative to say about it. So I would say that this one is probably getting about 4.5 stars, 4 to 4.5, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'd say 4.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't know. It seems like if they're gonna do 10, they have to have like 2 big episodes, right?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. They could just do 1 and 1, but it seems like if you wanted to go out with a bang, you're going to tie these last 2 episodes together. You came in on 2 episodes, you got to go out on 2, right?
Right. So the other question would be why maybe they're doing 12 for some reason because this isn't CBS, right?
No, I mean they could. There's no real rhyme or reason to how they pick their episodes. I guess.
Yeah.
I get. Well, I guess it's just a matter of whatever they order. Back in the day, they ordered so many episodes of something. I guess to some extent that's still a thing, and they're all set on certain numbers. But then every now and then somebody will go outside it, and they'll say, "Sure, why not?"
Yeah.
So who knows? It seems like Picard was 10. Andor was 10 for Star Wars World, and maybe,
Yeah, I mean it's a popular number because nobody wants like the 6 or 8s, right? But
yeah.
still,
And I think 12 is very common, 12 episodes, and I think that's what Doctor Who was running at for a long time, 12 episodes with I always make the joke with the season, so 13.
right.
Um,
I am waiting to see what the hell happens with Chapel throughout the rest of this season.
well, I was kind of, I guess if there is a disappointment to take away from this episode, that I didn't really glean how she got to be a badass fighter out of that. Because
Right.
certainly
No, I
wasn't
don't
there.
think you really did. That was like when they first met, right? So it continued
Yeah,
afterwards.
so we have to
what I'm
assume this
getting.
relationship goes on, but it's weird. So it didn't all happen to Jagal.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That Jagal was important, but there's more stuff there, right?
Most definitely.
My big thing is like we can tell that things with her and Spock are off, right?
Yeah.
And she shuts him out in this episode. And you process that. You can see it. They show her like taking a breath against her door or whatever. So I've really got this feeling that at some point he's going to have it come apart or blow up or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, they're gonna have to make it to where they're just friends, because by the time we get to Kirk's Enterprise, she obviously on Kirk's Enterprise deeply cares for him because that's where all this storyline comes from. But they can't be loving on each other by then.
Right.
He's got to get the old wifey back. Well, alrighty, right. Anything else you want to add?
No, pretty good episode. Hoping for more. I think the season has recovered for the most part, in my opinion.
Yeah. Hopefully they go out as good as we've gotten to this episode. As long as they stay above it right here, we're fine. So yeah, so I look forward to seeing you guys for the next episode or two, whatever we end up with. And please, before you exit out, hit the subscribe and like button. We're still growing. We need all the help we can get, guys. So we really hope you enjoyed it.
Putting it at the end of the episodes.
Yeah, I know. One of these days I'll remember to do it at the beginning.
You need to just get a sticker and like wherever you're looking most of the time.
Yeah.
Like put a reminder there.
And like. Subscribe.
Right.
And like. Yeah. I'll get it one day, won't I? One
day.
Hopefully. All right, guys. Well, as always, be excellent to each other, and we'll see you on the flip side. Peace out.
Thanks, everybody.